Welcome back everyone to our playthrough of the career mode here in NASCAR Heat 2. So we're down to the final two races, not only in this particular season, but also in the series, because this is the final two races of the career mode, at least in your ascension through the various levels of NASCAR. So before we get to the race at Phoenix, we already know by virtue of our victory at Texas that we are locked into one of the final four spots to race for the title at Homestead. But let's take a look and see what the rest of the 7 drivers are facing as they go into Phoenix. So again, Phoenix is the final race of this particular set of 3, this section of the playoffs. And Kyle Busch is looking great. He has essentially locked himself in by virtue of being 21 points ahead of the cutoff. Jimmie Johnson and Martin Truex also are in great situations, because if you look at Kevin Harvick, he is 8 points out. And he is realistically the only person who can point his way in, or even has a shot of it. But Jimmie Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. both know that if they get a top 10, it's going to be extremely difficult for Kevin Harvick to pass them on points. So they know that with a top 10, Kevin Harvick basically has to win the race in order to keep one of them out. So they know what they need to do. Kevin Harvick, again, you need to finish top 3 at the worst, and hopefully come home with a win to secure a spot. But if you're Logano, Keselowski, and Kurt Busch, then the message is very clear. You have to win, because pointing your way in is basically impossible at this point, short of one of those guys ahead of you, or in this case, multiple guys ahead of you, getting involved in wrecks and finishing, in the 30-something position, that kind of thing. So realistically, you have to expect to win this race. So now everybody knows what they have to do and where they have to finish in order to make it into the Final Four. I think it's ready to head to the race. All right, before we get this race started, let's take a quick look at the setup. And I can tell you that there is not a whole lot different from what I used the last time. Really the only change I made here was to the track bar, raising it an inch from 8.5 to 9.5 inches, as I've been doing in the last probably 3-4 races now. I've been doing that, if not more. So I've raised the track bar a little bit, which again should help the car to rotate a little bit more overall. And then I also increased the brake bias a little bit, and that's just me playing around with that, just seeing what feels best to me. The brake bias is a number that you would set based on a lot how you use the brakes. And for me, I just like playing around with different numbers, usually between 70 and 75%, just seeing what feels right at the time. So that'll take care of the setup. Let's get on with the race.
Check your belts. We're going to green.
All right, here we go. Green flag at Phoenix. All right, I'm going to give these guys a lot of room going into turn 1. So we have no pressure on us, and the fact that even if we win this race, it's not going to mean anything to us, because bonus points don't mean anything for race wins going into Homestead. Homestead is winner take all, and that's pretty awesome actually, that you don't have to worry about overcoming any number of bonus points or anything like that. 4 drivers, and the one who finishes the highest in the race will take home the trophy. So as normal, I'm going to try to spend some time down on that very bottom down there, just trying to see what I can do with the car and seeing if I can get what I need out of it as far as getting it to rotate down there. Turn 1 and 2 has been our Achilles heel with this type of setup, meaning that the setup is too tight. Hard to get the car to rotate. All right, so far so good. We're up to 34th. So increasing the track bar will help a little bit with that. Every little bit helps, but up to 32nd now, and moving along quite nicely, but still a lot of congestion up here ahead of us. So what we fight right now is just traffic. That's the hardest part, particularly on a short track, when everybody's fighting for the same groove. That makes it very difficult to pass, and if you're going to get to the front in a very short race, you're going to have to pass a lot of cars very quickly before the leaders have time to get away from you, because we've seen that a lot in these races where we've gotten up to around the top 10 or so, and then we realize that there are no more other cars for us to pass for position because they're so spread out. It takes us so long to try to catch one that we can't make up any more positions than maybe, 6 or 7. So that's the same issue that we would face here in this race, assuming, of course, that we had the speed to get up there to begin with. So right now we're up to 30, so we made up 10 spots, but it's taken us, as you can see, about 6.5 laps to get there. All right, really starting to like this apron groove in turns 1 and 2 as well, just because I know that the AI aren't going to be down there blocking me. Same reason why I like it over here in turns 3 and 4. Alright, so I must say things are going pretty good. And for me, what I prefer most of all is a good clean race. There's going to be contact. That's just something that's going to happen. And at somewhere like we had at Martinsville, there's going to be a lot of contact. So you just deal with it, but I'm not trying to invite the contact. So anytime we can get a good clean race, I'm happy. Alright, so we're in 25th. Ouch, a little contact there. We must have been 3 wide and I didn't realize it. Alright, so we've got a little bit of open track here. Things are starting to spread out a little bit, which is both good and bad for us. Oh, just too tight coming off that corner. Trying to make up too much ground at one time. See in front of us, guys are running right down to the bottom on the straightaway, which is generally not normal, and definitely not normal for this time of the race in real life, but in the game the AI will do it any and all the time. Alright, so always about trying to gain position to the inside of these guys whenever we can. Then trying to get a good run down the straightaway and finish taking that position on the entry to the next corner. Alright, so we're up to 21st. After 14 laps, so far so good. It seems like it's taken us about 7 laps to pass 10 cars.
Still there, he's outside.
Alright, let's see if we can. Ouch! Nice hit there from somebody. Again, we might have been 3 wide, and I didn't realize it.
Stay low, stay low. Still a car out there.
At this point, I've almost just given up on even paying attention to the spotter. All right, so we're up to 18th. We are now in the top half of the field. And we'll try to continue our march. Again, we've got some cleaner track. Things start to, all the congestion starts to thin out the closer we get to the front. And now that we're just outside the top 15, we're definitely seeing that. So our job is to keep pushing as hard as we can, because while I enjoy having the clean track to race in, I also understand that we are in position 18. So we still have a long way to go, and that clear track is hurting our opportunity to do just that. All right, so now we're closing in on Austin Dillon. Trying out some different grooves, just trying to allow the car to rotate on its own as much as I can, try to maintain as much speed as I can, which is a different way of attacking than when you're in heavy traffic. When you're in heavy traffic, you just have to try to maintain the inside position and use that the best you can, even though you fully realize that you're giving up speed to do so. All right, I see Kyle Busch immediately in front of us, definitely not having the run that you would expect him to have after the great season and all the wins and everything he's had. So he's back in 16th. The good news for him is it doesn't matter. He has a huge point cushion to deal with, so looks like he's just taking it easy. Passing cars when he can, but not putting himself in a bad spot, because about the only thing that's going to keep him out of the championship 4 is going to be a wreck. All right, so we're coming in, we're about halfway through the race now. Trying to get a glimpse as to who's in front of us, and I don't see any of the other guys in front of us that really need to have great runs, so that might mean that they are indeed having great runs. We're trying to set these guys up, and what I really want to do is go to the inside, right down here.
Stay low. Easy.
So it's not about making the pass right now, it's about setting these guys up
Stay low.
to make passes over the next couple of laps. So far, so good. Things are working out according to plan.
Stay low. Hold your line. Clear all around.
All right, so we're up to 14th now. And then Junior is immediately in front of us in 13th, and you can see we're already closing in on him. but we're going to run low on laps. That's going to be our problem here. Everybody's so spread out that even though we are running them down and passing them pretty quickly once we get to them, it's still not quick enough whenever you have to take so many laps just to get to them.
Stay on the bottom. Steady. Still a car out there.
Alright, pretty good run off the corner there, but not near as good as what Junior's going to have on the outside. So we're just trying to maintain our spot here on the inside and should be able to clear him, and we do. So now we're up to 13th, but you can see there is a huge gap in front of us before we get to, looks like Brad K up there. And we got 13 laps to go. We'll see, there's 3 cars pretty close in front of us, what I would call reachable distance with the remaining laps. So that would give us a shot. If we could get to a top 10, that would be huge in this race, because this is a short race. And once again, so far, I've not really seen the guys that needed to have a great race. So we're looking for people like Harvick. We're looking for Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. And of course, if you're Harvick, and it's not good news that I have not yet seen Truex and Jimmy Johnson, because he really needed them to finish outside the top 10. He really needed that in order to try to make up points on them by finishing very good himself. Keselowski, who is in front of us, had to basically have a victory in order to get himself in, and you can see he's not setting himself up for that by running just outside the top 10. Alright, there's Truex. I actually didn't even notice him there before. So he's in 12th. So this is going to put him in danger depending on where the other 2 are. More specifically, he's looking for Harvick. If Harvick is leading this race, then Truex is in deep trouble. So it looks like this is going to come right down to the end, because Truex, as I mentioned at the first of the video, really needed a top 10 to feel good about his ability to move forward. And of course, all of this changes if Harvick gets a victory.
Still a car out there.
So of course, we're not helping Truex's cause
Hold steady well.
by trying to pass him.
Clear quick.
Again, just trying to look up in front of us, because even though we're not going to make it up to the front with a chance at a top 3 or a victory, I'm trying to see how this point standings in the top 4 is going to turn out. And right now, I can't really tell who's going to be up there. All right, so we've got a shot here at a top 10. We got 5 more laps. We'll have to see because we need to get to Keselowski up there, who is stuck behind a lap car temporarily. No, he's still stuck behind a lap car. Wow, that's definitely not good for him. All right, looks like he's going to go ahead and clear now. That doesn't help us out any, but it is good for the racing. Drove it way in there trying to see if I could get something on the outside. Didn't quite work. So we'll go in here, try something else. Alright, so Jones is going to make it difficult for me running that bottom like he is all the way around the track. Makes it hard for me to get position on him down the straightaway. Alright, now we're right down to it. Final lap is about to begin. All right, so we got more lap traffic immediately ahead. So we still got a shot at this. I'm going to drive it down real deep into the inside. I'm just going to see if I can make it stick. Oh, little tap there, and we did it. So we managed to get into the top 10 on the final lap. Wow. Again, a fun race, which is above all else, that's what we're looking for. A fun race. Oh, and look who won the race. Kevin Harvick brings home the victory. Boy, talk about needing a win. Pressure situation, he brings it home. So let's go ahead and move through until we get to the final point standings. And there you see it. Kevin Harvick brings home the victory. He is guaranteed a spot. And who is left out but Truex Jr. So Martin Truex will not be advancing to Homestead with a chance to win the title, which is a little odd, given that he is the defending champion in real life. But who else will be going along with us and Harvick? It'll be Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson. So a thrilling end to what I would consider an end to the playoffs. So now it's down to the final race, 4 drivers, and winner take all. Let's go ahead and head back to... All right, so interesting to see that we brought home the fastest lap. There we go. You advance to the championship round. All right, and hey, we finally fulfilled an incentive contract. So we get $224,000. All right, championship round. This is the big one. Go out there and make your dream a reality. Interesting to hear Kyle Busch saying that, since he is also part of the championship round. So here we go. As the calendar advances, wow, okay, so what do we want to do here? Well, we're going to pick the challenging because we're going to win. Now, trying to win from starting in the back is going to be a Herculean task. This is going to be extremely tense. Now, we've had some tense races before at Homestead for championships, but again, we'll talk about that more in our next and final video in the series, where we'll head to Homestead for the championship. For now, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned for more NASCAR Heat 2.